collectors, and welcome back to the channel. This week we will be looking at a couple of cards from my collection that I really look forward to sharing with you, and some history behind the cards that you may not be aware of. Come with me and we will learn a little about the War of 1912. Yes, that's correct, not the War of 1812 that they taught us about in the history class. This war was much more exciting, and this one didn't end in a draw. I have two cards here that represent the characters in the story of the War of 1912. They are both from the 1910-1911 Sporting Life set, which consists of 300 plus cards. The 1911 Sporting Life set was distributed to the subscribers of the popular magazine Sporting Life, the primary competitor of the well-circulated Sporting News. The unnumbered cards were sold by mail in 12-card lots issued in 24 series, while the final 3 series being the rarest. This final group of 72 cards has over 300 subjects printed on the reverse, while the majority of the set has various ads from the weekly paper on the back. This Joe Wood card is one of my favorites in my collection. It was my white whale card for over 8 years, as it rarely comes to market in this condition. This has the scarce over 300 subjects back that was released in the final 3 series. I am so thrilled about acquiring this card after such a long time trying to hunt it down. I don't have a big budget for my collection, so I am very grateful to have picked up this Walter Johnson card some 10 years ago, when pre-war cards and especially Sporting Life cards were much more affordable. These two cards are both a fixture in my personal collection, and I feel honored to be their caretakers for the next near future. Let's take a look a little deeper into this story.
Walter Johnson won 32 ball games as he led the Washington Senators to a second-place finish. But 1912 was the year of Smoky Joe Wood, and his 34 victories led the Boston Red Sox to an easy American League pennant. Wood and Johnson were unbelievable. In the early part of the season, Johnson had a winning streak of 16 straight before being defeated. As the season wore on, Wood was challenging that mark. It became inevitable that the cry would arise that Walter Johnson be given the opportunity to protect his winning streak in head-to-head combat with Smoky Joe Wood.
There were very few pitchers ever lived that had a fast enough ball where it would really rise. And I was one of them. Walter Johnson and I were the ones in those days. Now, up at that time, Walter Johnson had his 16 and had lost his 17th. I had about 11. Well, old Foxy Clark Griffith comes in, and Walter Johnson should have the right to defend his record of 16 straight, so he challenged Joe Wood to meet Walter Johnson. And so they advertised us like prize fighters with biceps and triceps and all that stuff. And that is the only time, all the time I was there, and I don't think since, people who come to the game, the fans, were sitting right alongside the third base line and the first base line. We were sitting up, instead of sitting on our bench, back where the benches are now, and where they were then, we were sitting on chairs right up alongside those for people that were along the line. And I won 1-0 that day. And, of course, my God, if he'd had the club behind me, him that I had behind me, he never would have lost a game. That's the unfortunate part of Walter's pitching. He had a bad club behind him all the time, and I had a good club. Walter to me, my God, he's the only pitcher that I ever hit against that I didn't know whether I swung under the ball or over the ball. I just missed it, that's all. And I don't know how.
Sad Sam Jones pitched against Johnson.
Oh, he was awful fast. So easy, and that long arm. He had a long arm. His arm almost to his knee, hung down almost to his knees. If you could see his arms hanging down, you just realize how long they were.
Smoky Joe Wood was unbeatable during the 1912 season, and his roommate Tris Speaker was considered with Ty Cobb the greatest outfielder in the game. Wood and Speaker roomed together all the years Smoky Joe was in the American League. In 1912, the roommates were phenomenal. Speaker batted .383 and Wood won 34 games. At the season's end, Walter Johnson was asked whether he was faster than Wood. Johnson smiled and said, "My friend, there's no man alive can throw harder than Joe Wood."
As a pitcher, I was at the top of the heap, right along with the best, Walter and I. It's unfortunate when my arm went bad right at the peak of my career. 23 years old, and the next year I couldn't throw. Otherwise, I'd have set a record that they've been talking about yet, probably.
This was perhaps the first memorable game at Fenway Park, which had just opened with its first game just a few months earlier, and may be the most memorable regular season baseball game of the 1910s. It is said that no one who saw the game will ever forget it, and may never expect to see such another. Hall of Famer Harry Hooper called it probably the most exciting game I ever played in or saw. Joe Wood won the game 1-0 and pitched a complete game. Walter Johnson notched 8 innings pitched, giving up an RBI single to Duffy Lewis. Joe Wood said, "Well, I won 1-0, but don't let that fool you. In my opinion, the greatest pitcher who ever lived was Walter Johnson." Joe Wood went on to lead the Red Sox to a World Series victory, beating John McGraw and Christy Mathewson's New York Giants. Wood went 3-for-1 in the series and finished with 11 strikeouts in one game, which at that time was a World Series record. I hope you enjoyed this video and came away with something new you didn't already know. Please feel free to comment below with any questions, or if you would care to add any info that I might have missed. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like or subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and remember to enjoy and respect our great hobby. Happy collecting.